Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Do Drugs. I am your host, Aaliyah Janine, and today I have Crystal. Yay! I'm very excited to have Crystal on. Crystal is a super comedy fan and an awesome person. One of the only female comedy fans that doesn't give me the heebie-jeebies. Well, you don't give off dude porn fan vibes. Like, that's the thing, because I've always, like, I've said that there's certain female comedy fans that really act like male porn fans, and they're creepy. Some of them could
really,
some of them could be real creepy. The couple that
I know,
I've met, at least.
I know a couple, and I don't think any of them, none of them come off creepy to me. Yeah, there's a couple that we've ran into in like Moon Tower. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, you're a little too into this. I'm way too reserved to want to be creepy. So I'm creepy in the other sense of, like, I'm just shy.
Yeah. Yeah, we call those types of female comedy fans chuckle fuckers. The kind that are actually, like, trying to hook up with the comics, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, we call those chuckle fuckers.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So when I first encountered some of them, I'm like, oh, you're just like dude porn fans, like the super. It's like there's dudes who like porn and are normal, you know. Like a lot of, like, they don't know the stars' names, or like maybe they know one name, they know how they look, and then there's other ones that is like, oh, you wore these red shoes with the blue underwear, and I'm like, that is a little much.
Well, and the fact that they'll know birthdays, they'll know names, and I'm like, how dedicated are you to this, to a woman who you don't know, you're never going to meet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We went to Louis C.K.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, maybe 2 years ago now. And there was some chick, and we sat in the front row. I love Louis. Mm-hmm. Sat in the front row, and at one point, one of the ushers came and actually had to tell her to take her legs off stage. And it turns out she was wearing a dress and didn't have any panties on.
That's okay, exactly the type of person I was talking about.
Right. I mean, so, like, listen, like, we get it. Like, you know, Louis got his past, but, like, he also currently has a girlfriend. So your flashing your vagina isn't going to do anything.
Literally nothing for him. Yeah. And I can see. Oh God. Yeah. That's hilarious. And just how Louis is. Yeah. That probably wouldn't have gone over well.
I mean, like, from the stage, but it was like some lady that sat next to us caught me in the bathroom. She goes, oh, you were sitting next to us. Did you see that girl? She wasn't wearing any underwear. How did you know? Like, the stage and hilarities is curved. Like, how did you know this?
Right. That's so funny. That's hilarious. So yeah. Women, well, because I've been friends, you know, I'm friends with like A-list movie stars and like big name, you know, musicians and stuff like that. And the way I have seen women just like throw themselves at these dudes, I'm like, a little self-respect is necessary. Just a little bit. But I mean, I also get it. Like, if I ever met Johnny Depp in person, I'd be like, you could just right here, you want me right? Like, I get it to a certain extent.
I can't, the amount of times that we've seen, like, Normand or List, and I always just kind of just stand behind, and I'm like, Phil, are you going to go say anything? And he's like, oh, I thought you were going to. No, I will not approach them. I don't care if they know my name. I'm not approaching them. Right. I don't care. Let me just, you to go do your thing. I'll just admire from afar.
From afar. That's so funny. All right. So you're on the show today because you happen to be, now you have your master's degree in nursing. Congrats, by the way.
Oh, not yet. I just started.
Oh, you just started. Oh, yeah, because you were like, you should do it too. And I'm like, no. No more school. Although I love school. I'm so good at writing papers and shit like that. I'm like, if any college kids need a paper written, especially psychology, I have perfect APA formatting.
They have websites where you could actually, like, write somebody's paper for them and make money off of it.
Really? I do like
Mm-hmm.
money and writing papers, which is so
There you
strange.
go.
Be like, I found my new part-time job. What? But you are a nurse. You're a registered nurse, and for the past 2 years, you have worked in the ICU in the COVID unit, which I'm sure has been all sorts of fun, very entertaining. Just go, go, go.
Just really brought on the depression really hard.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I can only imagine because my mom's a registered nurse. Well, she's retired now. She was a nurse for 30 years, and she worked in labor and delivery like for most of her career. But she did try when she was younger. She did try working in the ER for a little while,
Oh,
and she did not like the ER. She had told me the reason why she had switched back to and she worked in the ICU for in an ICU for a little while too. And the reason why she went back to birth and babies, as she calls it, is because she's like, I would much rather bring life into the world than see it go, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I get that.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I get that. Because that's the whole reason why, she became a nurse was to, help and save people. And especially in certain areas in Milwaukee, like there's a lot of death.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
lots of death in Milwaukee. So she was like, yeah, let's bring life into the world. That sounds so much nicer. So I just got done having COVID. Good for me. I finally got it after 2 years. Yay. Knew I was gonna get it sooner or later. Of course, I was in Florida, so that makes perfect sense for me because living in New York, the hot spot for so long, I assumed, even riding the train or something that I would contract it. But no, on an airplane, and that's fine. Wear your masks on planes, people. You'll get it. And like a bunch of my friends have gotten it and they were telling me all these different types of drugs to take. They're like, oh, I think it's Paxlovid or something like I can't say any of these drug names, by the way. And then some type of inhaler. And since this was my first time getting it, I got to look it up for you. And so I could get the correct spelling because drug names as to where I do not.
That depends.
Yeah. It was because this is my first time getting it, so I'm super vaxxed. I have the booster, I have 3 shots, so I kind of wanted my body to fight it off because I haven't had the cold or flu in 13 years. Like I haven't been sick in 13 years. I know the look on your face. Like I have allergies. And so like I'll get sneezy and stuff like that. And I've been under the weather, but as far as like a cold, I haven't been sick in 13 years. And I always said it was like my stripper immunity because I was a stripper for so long. And I also have a dog. Dollar bills are really dirty, Crystal. They're so gross. So I'm like, that's why I can't get it. It's because fucking all the dollar bills I've had in my mouth. I'm like, I can't get sick. You can't get me sick. And then I got sick. I was like, oh, okay. Got sick. So I kind of wanted my immune system, since it's so badass, to fight it off itself. And it did. It did a good job. I tested positive last week, Tuesday. And by Sunday, I tested negative. I'm still really tired though. Okay, so you spell it Paxlovid. Paxlovid.
Hold on, now I'm gonna have to. What is it?
Look it up. Paxlovid. It's some type of. It's so funny too, getting COVID like 2 years later. Because I'm an eldest child, so now I know what it feels like to be the youngest child in the family. Whereas like with the eldest child, everyone's like, oh no, and then everyone's checking on you and making sure you're okay. And the baby of the child, it's like, oh, you're not dead, you're fine.
Oh, so this is the antiviral treatment.
Yeah. She said something about.
So it's probably like Paxlovid.
Okay, Paxlovid. Yeah, that sounds like the correct enunciation. I'm horrible.
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, you don't know?
Should be initiated as soon as possible after diagnosis of COVID-19.
Yeah, she said that because she's had it like 3 times. She's a lawyer, so she works with a lot of people and stuff. And so she's been taking it. I mean, if I get it again, I'm definitely taking drugs. I'm definitely taking
Well, it's miserable. It's COVID is, and like what I had brought it home, uh, 4 months after my ICU had turned into a COVID ICU, I was sick for probably 20 days. Wow. And had I not been a nurse and had then worked in a COVID unit, I probably would have ended up in the hospital. Absolutely miserable. Now the kid kind of breezed through it. He was sick for a few days. You know, Phil was sleepy for like 3 days, but he had antibodies afterwards. But like being the carrier to bring it home, it was miserable.
Oh,
miserable.
Yeah.
So the second time that we've gotten it, which was in January, having my booster, I was still pretty sick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was still sick. Yeah.
I mean, like if I get it a third time, I mean, if I could get antivirals, I probably would.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
No, well, the thing is too, is because I hadn't been sick in so long, I forgot how to like be sick and just like not do anything. You know what I mean? Like when you're sick, you sit on the couch or in your bed and you chicken noodle soup and watch movies or whatever. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Like it was really strange. And it just felt like a head cold for me. It felt like a sinus infection, head cold kind of thing. Cause I thought, like I said, I thought it was just a sinus infection from allergies from going from New York to Florida, you know, being warm and then coming back to cold weather. Cause that's happened to me before. And then, and then when I lost my taste and smell, but I only lost my taste and smell I lost it Tuesday. And by Thursday I had it back and I was like, okay, so
that's quick.
This is just a rapid, like little one. Well, they said that there's like different types of variants. So I think maybe I got like the weak one or something where it didn't really affect me, but I was exhausted. I was just like, even now, like I'm still really tired. Like I slept for 7.5 hours, woke up, walked my dog, you know, went grocery shopping, came back. I'm like, I could totally take a nap right now. So I did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I slept for an hour and then I got up and I'm like, I could still feel like I could sleep a little while. And then I almost canceled on you. I'm like, no, I need to do this. So I just took a caffeine pill. And now I'm like, I'm tired, but I'm wired. So
no, that's why I said, if you need to reschedule, I get it. I'm going to be the last person to judge.
Yeah, it is. Well, a lot of people too, and especially people who haven't gotten it yet, they're like, oh, it's like the flu, like our buddies Berg and Gino. They're like, oh, it's like the flu. And I'm like, I don't think it's like the flu. It's not like the flu at all.
No, I thought Phil said that Berg had it. Now, Gino, I don't know how Gino has not gotten it.
Oh, he probably has. He just doesn't test himself.
Oh, my goodness. Phil tells me things. I'm like, I can't. I don't understand. I can't. I don't understand how he's on the train and he's like licking poles or whatever. I don't know.
Oh God. So when I first moved here from California, because I assumed that when I moved to New York, because I was going to be in a colder climate again, because I lived in Wisconsin and then Florida and then California. And I lived there, you know, for 4 years. And I'm like, oh, in New York on the trains, I'm totally going to get sick. You know, like I had this, I'm like, I'm probably going to get a cold or the flu. Within the first year, nothing. I was like, yo, I'm still not good at sick. Like there'd be certain times when I would like ride the train because my mom's a nurse too. So I'm constantly always washing my hands. Even before, you know, COVID was just when I get somewhere, go in, wash my hands. It's just something I always have done. So I stopped washing my hands when I got off a train. Like if I held a pole, like I wouldn't use like one of my sanitary wipes. I'm like, I got to get sick sooner or later. Like I was actually like actively trying to get sick. And then with comics and we're sharing microphones and stuff like that, a bunch of people are like, oh, I have the flu. And I'm like, I'm fine. I have nothing. So it was really strange being sick. And I figured COVID would get me sooner or later. Well, I actually always thought that like if I got the flu, because I had had it in so long that it could probably kill me. So I was a little worried about it. To be honest, I'm like, oh, dude, if I get a cold now, either my immune system is amazing or I'm going to die. And like, apparently I do have a decent immune system because it kicked COVID's butt. It did a good job, although I'm still really sleepy. So I wonder how long that's going to last, but we'll see. Because it's only been, yeah, I just tested negative on Sunday. So it's only Wednesday. So I'll give it a couple more weeks. We'll see how it goes. Not super phlegmy anymore. Like I smoke. So I have like my normal smoker's cough. That was another thing too.
Right.
I didn't cough a lot. Everyone's like, oh, you cough, you have a sore throat. I didn't have any of that. So I think I maybe had like one of the weaker variants or something, or maybe just, being triple vax helped a lot.
I think it's that, and it's that Omicron has weakened so much to where most of the cases are pretty mild. As soon as like Omicron hit, our census in my ICU for COVID patients dropped significantk.
Yeah. Where people are like, oh, I don't need it. Yeah. They could just stay home kind of and quarantine that way. Yeah. I quarantined. I was wearing my mask in my building and stuff like that. So when it first happened, like obviously when the huge breakout first happened, what type of drugs were you guys like giving people? Was it just like trial by error kind of thing? Or did the FDC like give you stuff? Be like,
so initially we weren't giving anything. It was just pretty much, we were trying to wait before we could intubate. So basically putting somebody on life support. And then when all of the fuss came out about hydrochloroquine and azithromycin, we tried it and it didn't help anybody. I mean, at that point, like that's the kind of the argument is like, if you're going to start it, you're supposed to start it like at the beginning of onset. And it still doesn't matter. Like all these studies still come out and say it still doesn't help, but it was just kind of like, wait and give people time. And either what was going to happen is they were going to get better or they were going to continue to get worse to where we would then have to put them on basically like a pulmonary bypass machine. So they would still be intubated. And then we would have a machine that's called ECMO that would basically circulate the blood, all of their blood out of their body, oxygenate it, and then put it back in.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of really like the last resort. There's been a couple people that we've had that's come off from ECMO. I mean, like I've seen people who's had severe asthma attacks land up on it and they have pretty good results, or I've seen people with the flu. But anybody who we had on ECMO, I think I only know of like one or two that made it out. There was one that had made it out and he still ended up dying.
Oh, that's
sad. And then so what's the other one that there's remdesivir we've been giving. We tried like the giving plasma and platelets, and there's a few other investigational drugs, but I don't know what those were, just because if it was like a double-blind study, you don't know what you're giving. So we kind of tried everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Did people have to sign like waivers, be like, hey, if we give you these experimental drugs, you can't sue us kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like if they were on life support and they can't sign anything, then it goes to their families, and you can't blame a family member for being like, yeah, I want to try everything. So we had one older guy and he was on, I think like 2 different investigational drugs, which is stupid because then you don't know what's doing what.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and then you got to get blood on him every day. And I felt like we were getting blood on this guy like 2 or 3 times a day just to see what like his levels were doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what levels they were checking, probably liver. But yeah, we were doing, and anything that came out that the hospital I work at was immediately on board of like, okay, let's try it.
Yeah, let's just try it and try that. Well, yeah, because a lot of times too, drugs, as I told you before we started recording, like sometimes the cure can be worse than the disease. So there's certain drugs that could like screw up your liver, which is like our filtration system, our kidneys, like stuff that we need to work. So you may have COVID, but this drug could have fucked up something. Has that ever happened? Or like a drug, like a person had COVID and they tried an experimental drug and something failed, like kidney failure, liver failure, heart failure, or anything like that?
Oh yeah, kidney failure is kind of the big one.
Yeah.
And so like at that point, so when like if we put somebody on life support and we intubate them, like let's say it's a patient with the flu, because flu can, if you're going to kind of compare COVID to the flu, how we would treat it is kind of basically the same at a certain point. So usually people who are intubated and have the flu, we would usually give them continuous amounts of fentanyl, Versed, which is a hypnotic, maybe propofol. Sometimes we'd medically sedate them. And then depending on what their blood pressure is doing, we would give them stuff. So, but like our COVID patients, they would be on fentanyl, Versed, propofol, ketamine, propofol, anything. And we could not, oh, and the other one would be Precedex. We would have to throw everything at these people to even get them sedated enough for us to even medically paralyze them.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to throw at the body, to be like, here, you're fighting this virus. Oh, hey, now here's 5 different medications just to make you sleepy. And so, yeah, of course, you're gonna end up blowing out something. And it usually was gonna end up being the kidneys.
The kidneys, is that the weakest link, or the kidney?
Yeah, probably. I mean, because your blood pressure drops, your kidneys take a huge hit.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's just unfortunate. You want everything done, and that's what we start looking at.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always wondered too, because I noticed too that when I was sleeping, every time I would sleep, you know, go to bed and I sleep for like 12 hours, I wake up and I feel just a little bit better. You know, every time I took a nap, like a 3-hour nap, I'd be like, oh, I'm a little bit better. And then I remembered, oh yeah, sleep is like one of the number one things that helps your body like recover when you're sick and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to sleep. So I just slept a bunch, but yeah, I'm still really tired from it.
It's so the lethargy, just, at least for me, just it lingered for so long.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've also had it twice. Does it get easier after, like, the more you get it? Does it get easier?
I don't know, because when I went to work and had it the second time, one of my friends was like, what the fuck is the matter with you? And I go, I don't know. Phil has COVID, but I don't, because I tested negative at home. Yeah, it was fucking COVID. I mean, like, I at one point I was like, I need to go lay down, and crashed and took a nap. And my unit's pretty flexible. If you want to go take a break, and you can go take a break. And that means we might sleep for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I laid down and fell asleep hard. And I was like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with me? I just must be sleepy.
Yeah.
No, COVID.
No. Yeah, I was totally in denial too. I'm like, oh, it's just allergies. It's just a sinus infection. And it wasn't until I couldn't taste anything, I was like, oh, fuck. God damn it. I was the only thing where was that in the beginning? And that should have been in the beginning. So then I would have known, you know, to not give the fucking maid $20 when I left. And I was like, oh God, I infected so many people.
The only thing I wanted that first time I had COVID, because I also didn't have an appetite, all I wanted was banana pudding. So we ordered, and of course the entire house is under quarantine. We ended up ordering something from like a Michael Simon's restaurant up the street. And it was like a $9 thing of banana pudding. And it was at that point I lost my taste. And I was like, this is the worst pudding I've ever. And it didn't click. It didn't hit me yet. I was like, I'm never going to eat banana pudding again. And I haven't. That loss of taste, I think is I don't know. That's pretty miserable.
It's weird. Well, because I've lost my sense of smell and taste before. I think I was around 1920. I had bronchitis and pneumonia at the same time. I was super, super sick. I remember I was living with my dad and his wife at the time, my stepmom. And I just woke up kind of in the middle of the night. I want to say it was probably like 1 a.m. And I was just covered in sweat, just like fever, like an insane fever. And I was like, okay, I think I need to go to the hospital, because my mom's a nurse. And so like being sick was always like, are you dying? No. And I walked downstairs. My dad was still up, and he's like, he looked at me and I'm like, I need to go to the hospital. He's like, yeah, I think you do. He was just like, yeah, that's a good idea. So we got up, and it's January in Wisconsin. I didn't even bring a jacket because I was that hot. And I'm like, I had the windows rolled down because I was so warm, and I go to the emergency room, and I had a blanket. They gave me a blanket. I'm like, no, I don't need that. And they tested my temperature. They're like, yeah, you may need an ice bath. I'm like, can I just go stand outside for a while? Because it's fucking like -30 right now. Please, no ice bath. So yeah, so they just had me stand outside for a while to like cool my temperature.
Oh my gosh.
But that was like, but I remember that, like, because I was so stuffy and congested. That was actually the only time I was sick that I didn't smoke cigarettes. Because normally when I'm sick, like even with COVID, I was still smoking. I couldn't taste or smell anything. That was the only time that that's ever happened to me. Yeah. And it sucked. It completely sucked. But yeah, that Tuesday when I forgot what I was eating, I'm like, oh no, but there's certain things that I could taste and other things that I couldn't, which was weird. Like I couldn't taste my ginger beer, but I could taste this like Mexican rice chicken dish that I always eat. I was like, okay, I could taste this, but I can't taste that. So I was just trying to taste different stuff, which was really weird. And then it finally, then like Wednesday, it was totally gone. And then Thursday, it started coming back. I was like, oh, I could taste my orange juice now. And you lose appetite because if you can't smell or taste anything, you're not hungry. Those little brain triggers be like, right. If I smell food in the hallway, normally I'm like, I'm hungry. Yeah, I think I had to like force myself to eat at least once a day just so I had like food. You know, you have to eat.
I think that's the scariest thing for me about COVID is when you know that it's impacted your neurological system.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about the brain.
You know, you got your brain fog, your olfactory nerve, so that to smell. I don't even remember which nerve it is to taste. But that's the scariest thing for me is that stupid virus is going through, like the flu doesn't go to your neurological system. There's something about that when it happens and you're like, okay, you're in my brain right now. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, like what the fuck are you doing? Like I have enough problems up there. Like I don't need anything extra. Like, I don't need any help being crazy. You know, I got enough of that going on up there. Yeah, that's one thing I was worried about was like the brain fog. I'm like, wait, is that every variant that does that? Or is it only some of them? Yeah, because some people were talking, someone on Twitter, it's so nice too. People are like, oh, try lion's mane for brain fog. And like, they just give you this list of drugs to like, I use this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to listen to anyone, I'm going to call my mommy because she's a real nurse and I'm going to ask her what I should take. Oh yeah. And then my other friend said, vitamin B12, vitamin C, vitamin D3, pesticide, oregano oil capsules, and Tylenol. She said every day.
Again, the liver. What about the liver? What does the liver think about all this?
The poor liver. And like, I don't drink nearly as much as I used to, but I know my liver is definitely, you know, it hurts sometimes for sure. Even with the recreational drugs that I've used, I'm like, my poor liver. And I know that that's the one organ that like regenerates itself, you know, but I'm getting older and you just don't get a new liver every time you do something, you know what I mean?
I always, whenever I would go hardcore and I knew I was going to go out, of course, you know, you take your Tylenol before go out and take some, you know, you go out, you drink, and then you take a Tylenol when you come home. Mm-hmm. And then I was probably in one of my nursing classes and they're like, well, you know, you can always go into liver failure if you take too much Tylenol. So chasing Tylenol after booze is just adding extra injury to your liver. Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Ooh, yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, thanks.
I
did that for I don't know how many years.
I think it probably takes like a lot. Like you probably have to go out and drink every day and then take, you know, for it. At least I would hope so. I've never been big on Tylenol. Normally when I would go out, like if I knew I was going and having a heavy night of drinking, I would always take Imodium AD so I didn't get the liquor shits the next day.
That is brilliant. I would have never thought about that.
Yeah, because like, especially as I started getting older, I'm like, I'm just shitting all day after especially if I'm drinking beer or wine, I'm just like, yeah. So I would take Imodium AD before I would go out so I wouldn't get the liquor shits the next day.
I was 29 and it might have been my last huge hangover where I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this for very long. Mm-hmm. Where I was out with my friend, I started taking like shower shots at like 6 p.m. I was so hammered by the time like 9 o'clock rolled around. I stayed on her couch the next day and she would like feed me mashed potatoes. Then I would cheek it like I was a psych patient and then fall asleep and then wake up and still I have mashed potatoes on my cheeks. That's what I knew. Like, I can't do this. I can't keep doing this.
Yeah. You can't keep drinking the same way. It's so weird. No. As you get older, because my mom, she can't drink anymore either. And she says it's because we're Native American and like that whole angry Indian thing or whatever, but that our bodies can't digest the alcohol. They can't break it down correctly. And I'm like, I'm fine. I could drink a bottle of vodka and be fine, Mom. And then as I get older, I could have 2 glasses of wine and feel like utter shit the next day. Like, just like I'm ready to die. Yeah. I think I was probably around like late 20s, like maybe around the same age where I had, no, because I lived here. The worst hangover I ever had, I had drank 2 bottles of wine with my girlfriend. She came to visit. And the next day, just throwing up constantly. Like I gave myself alcohol poisoning, basically. And so like every time I drank water, I just throw it up because you have fucking alcohol poisoning. And like my throat was so bad. It was like a week I was down. I had like a week-long hangover. I'm like, all right, we're not going to do that anymore. And then of course I did because I'm an idiot, but I'm an addict.
It makes me wonder at what point medicine is going to come around to being like, based on your genetics, you have X amount of drinks in your system. Yeah. Like, why are there old alcoholics that are out there like 70s and 80s and they're totally fine with no signs of liver failure? And I've had patients that are like 26, 32 and complete liver failure and can't get a liver because they still drink.
Yeah.
Like, what about your genetics is making you like end stage liver failure where you got to go on hospice from drinking at 26?
Yeah. And how much is that 26-year-old drinking to like a normal amount? Yeah.
Yeah. This guy was like, I started drinking at 21 and I'm not going to stop drinking. No, I mean, you got it right. You got to kind of take him at his word.
Yeah.
And I don't, but like, what in his genetic profile made him go, okay, 26, my liver's going to shit out? I don't understand that.
Yeah, it has to be something hereditary. Did it like run in the family or something like that? Because I remember my grandmother on my father's side, she's a heavy smoker, Pall Mall, non-filters, she would smoke while she would eat, like just constantly smoking. And she ended like, she had heart failure a couple of times. And when they would go in, they literally would scrape her lungs of tar. They're just like, oh, well, I'm like, wait, that's an option. I'm like, we could do that as a smoker. I'm like, that's an option. We could just go in and get her lungs scraped. But she smoked and like she had an oxygen tank and stuff as she was getting older. But they had told her, they're like, if you quit smoking, it could probably kill you faster. Whereas my grandfather on my mother's side, he also smoked a ridiculous amount, Lucky Strikes, Marbreds for years, like 3 packs a day kind of, guy. And he ended up having a couple of strokes and he ended up having like stage 4, stage 5 lung cancer. And they're like, if you don't quit smoking, you're going to die faster. So it is, it's that genetic thing. And I'm blood related to both of them. So I'm like, where's my smoking going to come into factor? Am I going to be like grandma? Right. Or am I going to be like grandpa with the lung cancer? Am I going to be the old crazy lady smoking cigarettes while having the oxygen tank in back of her to piss off her son? She would too. They're like, when I lived with him in Florida, he's like, you're going to blow up the house. Because she had a DNR. And my uncle is he's very persuasive, I'll say. Terrifying. My uncle is very terrifying and scared the doctor so much that he brought her back. And so she was really mad because she wanted to go and he didn't want to let her go yet. So she would do stuff like smoke cigarettes with oxygen tank. She's like, good. I hope I do blow up the whole house. I fucking love that bitch. She's great.
That is not a good way to go out either.
No.
On fire. No,
and blowing up. Well, I mean, because she had her little like go-kart thing or whatever. I'm like, she would have gone instantly, but the rest of us would have been.
Oh gosh. I never met him, but I had a great uncle who was always known for smoking while being on his oxygen tank. Why would you do that? Why?
So
just take up your oxygen.
Yeah,
right, just take up your oxygen for a few minutes.
Well, she said that she would get a little bit of a buzz, because like people, there is that high when you smoke, but like I don't get that buzz anymore, even when even if I'm on a long flight, like maybe a little bit, but I was like, I never really got that high. Yeah, it's
smoking, because I don't smoke anything. Hookah, if I do hookah, I get that buzz. If I smoke cigars, I get that buzz.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's enjoyable until it's not.
It can make you nauseous. It can make you very nauseous. I remember when I used to chew, like in high school, because like that's when I first started like smoking, and because obviously you're kids, so no one smokes. You always smell like a cigarette. So we would dip. We would always have chewing tobacco, and that shit was disgusting. Please don't chew. And then I found the little bandits, where the little packets, and then you put those in. I was like, oh, these are nice. But I remember like if I left them in for too long, or if I left the dip in for too long, it would make me sick. Because like I get the buzz, and then I'd be like, oh, like I'd just be nauseous from it, because you have too much fucking nicotine in your system.
Right. My one grandfather always did chew, and I didn't realize it until like years later after he died. I smelled something, and I was like, I asked my dad, I was like, what was that smell? Why did that person smell like that? He goes, oh, he uses the same chew as your grandfather did. Oh, okay. And my other grandfather would carry around like a jug and just spit into it.
Spit in it. Oh
yeah.
Yeah, that, or I knew a couple old dudes that they wouldn't even spit it out. They just swallow. And I'm like, that.
Oh no.
They would just swallow it. And that's really gross. I mean, because when we're younger and we first try and dip, like I swallowed a little. I'm like, oh, you're not supposed to swallow, because you don't know, and you're a kid, and you're like, I didn't swallow it. Who's dumb? I'm not dumb. That kind of mentality.
Oh man, I have a strong stomach, but thinking about that may make me retch. That's
right. Yeah.
So disgusting.
Yeah. The chew thing. Oh God. I'm so glad I did it. There's a couple of comics that I saw dip, and I was like, I want to try it again just for shits and giggles. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know what the fuck I'm thinking. Absolutely not. Have you working in the ICU unit and having, because like COVID doesn't discriminate against anyone could get it. Did you ever have anyone who had like a drug problem go into the ICU with COVID? Like maybe a heroin addict, or maybe someone with crack. I love crack.
Not offhand that I can think of. Because that's the thing, is like it didn't discriminate.
Yeah. And most people aren't like 100% honest, be like, yeah, I'm a heroin addict, you know what I mean?
And now that I think about it, it's only been kind of since COVID has subsided that I've even started to see like people on heroin even come back in. Like I'm even trying to think, like I'm even starting to see like more people come in because their blood pressure is high from cocaine, or they can't breathe because of cocaine. There's nobody that really kind of sticks out of anybody that was an addict.
That was an
that
addict.
I can think of. Yeah.
With the COVID thing. Yeah. I don't know if my heart, I also didn't have a fever. That was another thing too. Cause I run kind of cool. I run around like 96, 97 is my normal body temperature. And when I went to test my temperature, it was like 97.8. I think it's been the highest that it's been for a while. I'm like, ooh, I have a fever. I've always run kind of cold. I don't know why. So working in that unit, and which drugs have you seen that do work the best? Right. Like now 2 years in, that there has to, like, you guys obviously have something that may work better than others.
I would say the remdesivir and oh God, it's the one steroid that we're using, dexamethasone. I'd probably say that that's probably been the best.
Mm-hmm.
I use that loosely because if you're at the point where if you're in the COVID unit and you're intubated, like your chances are still at 50-50.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I mean, like those monoclonal antibodies, if you could get that, like that kept a lot of people out of the hospital. I mean, you almost have to like get it early.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know you've got COVID early, get antibodies, and then just stay at home and just take care of yourself. At the point you come in the hospital, good luck. I mean, and I hate to say that. That sounds so horrible and it's pessimistic.
But it's real. It's the truth.
Right. it's so unfortunate because it seems kind of heartless, right? You can't be heartless if you're a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
But like it also comes to a point where I mean, if you're super sick, it's at the point you're at your body's mercy. Whatever your body's going to do, it doesn't matter how much your family thinks you're a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's you against your body. If your body's going to succumb to it, your body's going to succumb to it.
Yeah. And that has to do with genetic makeup. Again,
absolutely.
Are they doing like research on that? Like the people who have survived versus the people who haven't, are they doing research on like the genetic makeup of those people? Like why these people survived and why these people didn't? Obviously people with like existing conditions, you know, a lot of those people didn't survive COVID. But a couple of did, right? There's been a few that are like, oh, I had this, but I'm fine. I don't
know if they're doing testing for that or not. I don't know. It had come to a point where anything that was COVID related, just because I'd be at home and then, you know, Phil wants to talk about COVID and then I'd go to work and it was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd talk to my family and it's COVID. And I was like, I can't deal with anything else. It's COVID related.
Yeah.
I can't. Any articles about it, I was like, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess being in the trenches of it, yeah, you're just sick of it.
Like, you flame out. You flame out.
Real
so quick.
Yeah. Well, also like having to deal with actual COVID patients and stuff like that. A lot of people don't realize, you know, like a lot of people don't understand how difficult a nurse's job is in general. You know, like the way my mom would talk about how horrible the doctors were in the hospitals that she worked at, just ridiculous. And so like nurses do 95% of the work and doctors do that 5%. It's like, hi, I'm the doctor. Here I am.
I'm going to go put in some orders now. And then you're going to complete all the tasks.
And then you're going to do literally everything else.
Yep. Oh, I'm going to tell you to do something and you're going to put the order in and then I'm going to still have to go do it. Got it.
Yeah. So you end up getting stressed out and just like tired of it. Yeah, I can see that and not wanting to hear anything else about it, especially because like viruses, like a lot of viruses, like there's no cure for viruses,
right?
A lot of times viruses, there's no cure. Like you may come up with vaccines and stuff like that. Now they have a vaccine for HPV, you know, even though I've already had fucking HPV and cancer, I'm like, can I still get the HPV vaccine for the throat cancer? Because they're talking about that. I'm like, can I still get it even though I already have it? I don't know.
I wish that they would really extend out the HPV vaccine. Like, why only until 26? I mean, like, really?
Yeah. Well, no, now they have an older one. I saw a commercial. Gotta love the drug commercials. Thank you, George Bush. For they have it now for older people. Yeah, because I was over 26 when I heard about that, and I was important. I'm like, yeah, I want it. They're like, oh, you're too old, and I'm like, what do you mean I'm too old for it? How are you?
I had asked about it. I had just turned 26, and my doctor at the time told me, she goes, no, you're too old. 26. I just turned 26. How am I too old for it?
No, you're not too old for it. Yeah. And it's one of those things that sooner or later everyone's gonna get, they say, or like, because HPV is one of those things too, where it's like you could contract it and not know you have it for 20 some years. That's what my doctor told me. And I'm like, listen, I was a whore, so it's fine. You don't need to try to make me feel better about my life choices. I have slept with quite a few people. I am well aware of my work hazards, as my mom called. I remember the first time I got gonorrhea, I was 31. It was the first time I ever contracted an STD, and it was from porn. And I call her just bawling. I'm like, I got gonorrhea. 31, crying to my mom about an STD. And she's like, well, those are your job hazards now, Aaliyah. So she was so funny. I'm like, they are.
That's very supportive though.
Yeah. No, she's very real. Well, being a nurse, yeah, she has empathy and stuff, but she's also very realistic. You know?
That's not something I think I would have ever thought about, was like, yeah, that's a work hazard.
Yeah, that's one of my work hazards. Yeah. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah, she's very smart. You would actually get along with my mom so well. You guys would have so much fun. Speaking of viruses, so has anyone who has had HIV or AIDS in your unit contract COVID, and how did that affect them?
I don't think I remember any
HIV.
No. I mean, we saw not unless by that point, if they were too sick and they went on ECMO, then they'd go into another unit. Mm-hmm. We saw a lot of at first, our unit was like pretty much all Black patients, pregnant, asthma, middle of the road. It was a lot of pre-existing conditions. And then like our last kind of real big wave, which would have been at the end of last year, was all like the Patriots. I'm not going to get it. Donald Trump. I can do anything. So that's like the mix that we had. Mm-hmm. It was so weird because it was anybody who couldn't socially isolate in these multi-generational households. Mm-hmm. So like if somebody had come in, and if they were just way too sick and they had to go on ECMO maybe, but I don't remember anybody with AIDS either. AIDS is not a pretty death. And I couldn't imagine AIDS with COVID. I couldn't even fathom that.
Yeah, especially because HIV, like that turns into AIDS. A lot of people don't realize that it's not like you don't get full blown AIDS right away. It's like HIV, right. and then it could turn into AIDS. And now they have like the PrEP, and they have this stuff for HIV where it's like you don't even show that you have it anymore. It's not that you don't have it; you still have it. It's just not showing up in it. So that's one thing that I was curious about, like people with AIDS or just even HIV, like if they were taking PrEP and then they got COVID. Maybe I should ask a gay guy about it.
But even now that I think about it, the amount of, so I've been a nurse for 10 years and I, on one hand, have only had maybe 4 or 5 AIDS patients, not a whole lot.
Yeah, no, people, that's not a lot.
I mean, like people on PrEP who are still in HIV who look fantastic, but nobody who's like end stage AIDS, that borderline HIV AIDS. I mean, it really hasn't been a lot.
Yeah. Well, especially with the PrEP now, I think a lot of people they're like, oh, this helps me not get AIDS. Okay. So I'm going to take
absolutely.
This. I'm going to take this all of the time, which makes
sense.
And
they look great. I mean, they never show a sign that they're sick, as long as they stay on it and they don't fall off like their regimen. But like otherwise, you'd never know.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen, he's a good example. I mean, he always looks a little cracked out though, because he actually really does like crack. Loves the crack, loves it so much. Not that I know personally, but Charlie Sheen loves crack. Everyone knows that.
I was curious about him the other week and looked up, and I think he went back through rehab.
Shocking. Honestly, not a surprise.
No, because he's got to make money one way or the other.
Yeah. I haven't seen him in anything for a while. Well, I love this story about how he was doing not Wolf of Wall Street, but Wall Street with his dad or whatever, and he's just geeked out of his mind for the entire fucking movie.
And Martin Sheen's not that bad looking of an older guy.
No, he's hot for an old guy. Like I wish Sean Connery was still alive. I'd bang him. I don't give a shit. He's Sean Connery.
You know, I don't know if I would have ever put Sean Connery up there on my list.
Really?
No.
No, not even like young Sean Connery.
Young Sean Connery might have.
Yeah, like James Bond Sean Connery. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do this a lot at work, and then we try to find like who's the weirdest one. And my one friend, oh God, what's his name? That he was in oh shit, Jurassic Park and The Fly.
Oh,
Right.
Jeff
Goldblum.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep, that's hers.
I like Jeff Goldblum.
Like,
Jeff Goldblum could get it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could see it.
Yeah,
totally.
He's a hottie. Yeah, and he's one of those people. It's like the Cumberbatch, whatever his name is. It's like they're like the weird attractive, if that makes sense.
Yes. Obviously that's what I like, is I like the weird
kind of attractive. Yeah, I'm like, I think he's really hot. Yeah, I've always because someone said, I was like, I kind of feel like the weird attractive. Like I'm not like a 10. I always say I'm a solid 7, but I got titties and a charming personality, so that bumps me up a little bit. But yeah, I'm like the weird.
That's the thing. Well, that depends on the generation of man, because it's either boobs or butt.
Yeah. I got a little bit of my butt back, a little bit, because I've been doing a lot. I've been working out a lot. But yeah, I got titties. I got titties.
That's the only reason why I got Phil.
Titties. Yeah. Men are so dumb. They're so dumb. Just titties or boobs. Like, I got titties. You want some of this? Yes. Done. There we go.
Okay. Perfect. Are you nice?
Yeah. Are you nice? You like titties, but also, are you nice to the titties?
Right.
Must be nice to the titties. I remember I dated one dude, and like, I don't think he's ever, like, I don't know if I was like the first woman he's ever been with. Like, it didn't seem like it, but he was like, it was so hard. It was just like, it was like, I ended up with bruises all over. I was like, yo, they're not doorknobs. It was so weird.
Oh, I was with a guy. I actually ended up marrying him, which was such a stupid decision. And I don't know what, but he played with my nipples for the first time like they were transistor radios, to the point where I was sore for like 2 weeks afterwards.
Right?
Nursing my child didn't hurt that bad. I mean, like, it was just this.
I have that. And it's like you need lubrication, you need something there too, because then it's just like, it's like dry humping, you know what I mean? It's like, you need they get all raw and shit. Yeah, my ex, he likes to do that just to play, to fuck around and be like, but not like, just, that's so funny. Yeah.
That's all that was.
Yeah. Because he didn't know what to do with boobs. He didn't know. He's like, you like this, right? Is this hot? It's turning you on? No, it doesn't. It's actually quite painful, and it makes me want to call the police.
Like, what if I did that to you for half an hour? How do you think your nipples would feel?
Let me take the tip of your dick, okay, and just around the head, and I'm just going to go like this. No lubrication whatsoever, and see how you like it. God damn it. Yeah. Boys are so dumb. Why are boys so dumb? Yeah. Answer that question, Crystal. Why are boys? No, I'm kidding.
Their brain is smaller. I have no idea.
I mean, yeah. Well, I've come to the conclusion that they're just emotionally retarded, that a lot of men, they have not emotionally evolved.
Yeah, that's why I dated older.
Yeah, I always said
Phil. It didn't help.
Yeah, no, they're still dumb. They're so dumb.
Yeah.
They're so, yeah. We love you guys. I love guys so much. I do. I like you more than women, because I try to date women and we're fucking nuts. So I'm not doing that anymore. We are crazy. Yeah, you need a yin to your yang. So if I find like a super chill, like butch chick, what? Maybe. Yeah, but yeah. No, I still need you guys, but you're dumb. It's okay. I'm dumb too. We're all dumb in our own certain ways.
There's things that Phil didn't know, that St. Patrick's Day was March 17th. He was a bartender.
Shut up. That's hilarious.
He was like, is it the 15th? No. You are in your 50s. It's the same day every year. How do you not know this? I don't know. I never paid attention. Okay.
Yeah, some people like, I mean, that's happened. I get it where you just don't pay attention to certain things and people are like, how do you not know this? I'm like, apparently I lived under a rock, or apparently it just didn't affect me. But yeah, every bartender should know when St. Patrick's Day is, because that's a hell day for them. It's like the day before Thanksgiving, especially in Wisconsin, like the day, well, yeah, you're in the Midwest too. So the day before Thanksgiving and like St. Patrick's Day are two of the biggest drinking days ever.
I don't know. Maybe it's because he was a bartender in a hotel, so maybe he didn't get hit the same way.
The same way with all the green beads and kiss me, I'm Irish shit.
But still, how do you not know? I don't know. Whatever.
Maybe he just forgot about it. I don't know. I was actually, because like I make flyers and stuff like that, and there's always at least one name that I'll screw up on the flyer, like forget a letter or add a letter, or just like misspell it completely. And my buddy Husama Siddiqui, and like his name is the name that I always make sure I spell 100% correctly. Like I've always made sure his name very specifically, because he gets upset about it, and he should. It's his name and I should know how to spell it. He was also my statistics tutor for 2 years. So like he helped me keep my 4.0. So obviously I'm going to remember how to spell his name, but I did screw it up on one flyer. I'm like, dude, and I haven't done it in a couple of years. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, if it makes you feel better, I also forget how to spell my own name sometimes on flyers. And like, it was because I was writing down a list of comics for a show, and I spelled Janine, Janie. And I looked and I'm like, that is my own name. And I like circled it and I showed it to him. And I'm like, see, it's even written down, which is even worse than typing it. It's so dumb. I'm an idiot. All right. Yeah, I hope that COVID doesn't make me dumber than I already am. I really hope for that. I hope it doesn't. I only have a couple brain cells left, and I like to keep them for when I do mushrooms. So please, COVID, do not screw up my brain.
At least you won't be depressed if you're doing mushrooms. So
yeah,
no, microdose yourself.
Yeah, no, that's what helped kick me out of like a really bad 3-year depression was microdosing. I mean, I also dose, but the microdosing really helped. The whole like 2020 summer or whatever, that's all I did was acid and mushrooms and DMT. That whole, just a 40-year-old woman just tripping her balls off in Central Park. It was great. It was perfect. Watching the fucking riots and stuff. Fire's pretty. Yeah, no, I was an idiot, but it did really help kick me out of my depression. I was like, holy shit, I feel amazing. It was great.
Yeah, what would be your drug and drink of choice as you're dying?
Oh, as I'm dying?
It's going to be your last.
Yeah, heroin. I'm going to do heroin. Absolutely. Yeah, me and Doug
What's your drink?
Oh, drink. Well, I do like a nice Sauvignon Blanc. But maybe if it's like my last one, maybe I used to really love like 3 Olives vodka makes this like cherry flavor, and also their bubblegum. Their bubblegum flavor is really good too. I was going off on their bubblegum flavor for a while. So maybe like a bubblegum vodka and Sprite, just all that sugar. Yeah, it's when I stopped drinking that stuff, I instantly lost 30 pounds. I was like, oh, wow, look at that.
3 Olives is so good, though.
It's so good. Yeah, the 3 Olives cherry is so good. Yeah, so maybe that, and definitely heroin. Yeah, I said it like at the end of the world, or if I'm dying, I'm going to overdose on heroin. Well, maybe not overdose. Like, I don't want to like be shaken and shit. I want it to be a nice time. I want it to be a nice time. So just like maybe a nice drip or something. I don't know. My mom had said that if, because watching her father die, you know, of the lung cancer, and he was on hospice, and we took him off all the machines, and it took him days to let go, just days, to the point where my mom wanted to give him a little extra, you know, just to knock him out.
Yeah.
So he'd be out. But at the time, like the woman that he remarried was also like a nurse. It's like, no, you know, the correct amounts and stuff like that. So me and my mom made a pact that if like she was on her deathbed, or if I'm on my deathbed, that we're just going to off each other. I was like, absolutely. I'm not going to make her suffer. You know what I mean? We put down animals. Like, why the fuck are we not going to? Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Me and Doug Stanhope had talked about that. We're going out with heroin, baby. What about you? What drug would you do?
So I am totally still stuck in being in high school and ecstasy. Like Molly was the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Never done Molly. I mean, I've smoked pot twice, and the first time was in my 30s. So I've always been very, very straight. It would be an Irish car bomb and ecstasy.
Okay. Nice. Irish
The
car bombs
weirdest
are good.
combination.
That is really weird.
It's so that's what it would be.
Yeah. Irish car bombs are great. And it's so funny. I traveled to Florida with fucking 4E pills. I forgot that I had them. I got them down in the village from fucking my buddy Johnny. He's like, I got E. And I'm like, because I don't fuck with the capsules. So like, they're like, it's Molly. I'm old. I'm like, I want the press pills because that way I know there's no fentanyl in it because they took the time to fucking press them and shit like that. And me and my ex, we actually took them on Monday. They had like Trump ones. I don't know.
Oh gosh. Really, you can't even leave the ecstasy alone.
No.
I mean, like, really, it's got to get political.
Yep. Oh, I had some weed that had like Afghan. It was an Afghan Kush, and it had like a picture of a fucking tank on it. I'm like, I can't even fucking smoke weed without it being political. But I mean, the Afghans do have really great weed though.
But I would think like that's the last thing as you start to light up that you want to see is a tank on there.
Yeah, it's war. No.
Oh, just leave it alone. Just leave the drugs politically, leave them alone. Let them do their own thing.
Yeah. There's already a war on drugs and it's not winning. It's never gonna win. The other side is definitely winning.
It's the dumbest. The fact that they got to keep the war on drugs. I mean, really, like if you really want to look at like Portugal and Spain both have legalized drugs, legalized injection sites, clean needles, their overdoses have gone down, their crimes have gone down. Like you're much better off just legalizing it, making it to where there is a standard so that if people who are going to use, do it safely, right? It's the same with sex work. If you make it safe, then at least you're always going to have people that's going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
But at least if you give people the responsibility over their own body, hopefully that they're going to take a chance, still use, but use the safer choice.
Yeah. In Amsterdam, you can actually, if you buy something from a drug dealer, you can send it into the government and they'll test it for you and send you back the results. So you know exactly what's in it. So it keeps all the drug dealers. Yep. Keeps all the drug dealers honest and stuff like that. Yeah. It's so ridiculous. Well, I also, because the American government, they're very conservative and they still have that Puritan kind of mentality where it's like, they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be wrong because they're very wrong about the war on drugs. Obviously, like drugs now are becoming, the states are legalizing. They're like, fuck the federal government. Like we see the results of this happening. New York has a needle injection site now. And they've saved a bunch of people's lives from that. It's it's dumb. Like when I traveled to Florida, like I brought weed with me and I asked, I had my vape pen in my hand because I'm a fucking idiot. And I asked them, like, is weed legal here? And they're like, no, not yet. I'm like, let me just put this away then. But I'm like, I'm still smoking. Like people are still going to do it. Yeah, it's so dumb. All right. This has been awesome. I love talking with you. This has been super fun. Obviously, do you have anything you would like to promote? Do you want people to follow you on Twitter or Instagram?
No, my Twitter is just done with dumb thoughts and now just dumb Republicans.
Yeah, that happens.
Sorry, Republicans, but like your candidates in Ohio, they stink.
Oh God. Well, all of them. I'm done like aligning myself with any political party. I never really have. It's like, oh, I like this person because there's some Republicans that I've liked, and I actually have a lot of Republican views where I think more states should have more power. Except after the COVID thing, I'm like maybe not Florida, but like definitely should have more control over certain things. But yeah, I'm done with politics. I stopped watching the news after Trump lost. I'm like, now it's boring. Like at least before, like. As Shane Gillis said, he's hilarious. I mean, terrifying, but he was so funny. And it was and
he was a great troll. If you wanted anybody who knew how to be a troll, it's Trump, right? He had a video that he had posted where it was him holding like a Trump sign. And then it went from 2020, 24, 2040, all the way to like 3,000. And all these people got so angry on Twitter. Do you really think Trump is going to live 1,000 years? Where's your outrage?
Yeah, anything to be mad about, except for the shit that's going on in their own fucking lives.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, you can find this wonderful podcast on Twitter and Instagram at How to Do Drugs. You can follow me, the Aaliyah Janine on Twitter, Aaliyah.Janine on Instagram. Please rate and subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google, all the places where you find podcasts, also YouTube. All right. Thank you and goodbye.